we go. All right, Vigilante Williamson here on the 69th episode of Culture Crime Fighters, and I'm joined not only by my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, Foulball Productions, but Gabe as well, comedian. How you doing, man?
How's it going there,
Hey, what's
Gabe?
up? Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Absolutely,
thanks for
my friend.
showing up,
So
man.
far,
Appreciate it.
Cool,
yeah.
cool. I know Gabe because I live in Austin, as some of y'all know, and I know Gabe from the stand-up comedian community. I've seen him around. I saw him at the bar that I used to work at, the Brass Tap. I also saw him. I think did you host that show, the Bonnie McFarlane, Annie Lederman show, or did you
Yeah,
feature
I was
that?
the host that night. I was the
Yeah,
host.
you're the host. And
Yeah.
that was a spectacular show, man. I thought you were very funny, and I thought the lineup was terrific. And I've seen Gabe around a lot in this town, and I just happened to run into him the other night, and we just got into a conversation. So Gabe, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Oh, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head, man. I stand-up comedian here around this town, and yeah, I just pretty much perform all over. I recently started running a show, had an art gallery in town, and yeah, not originally from Texas, not a
Okay, where you
not a
from?
Texas native,
Neither are
so
any of us.
moved here like
Yeah, none of us are actually.
Neither am
Um,
I. Neither is Vidge. So,
yeah, I moved here from Georgia.
okay.
Wait, are both you
cool.
guys in Texas?
Yeah. I'm in the Houston area. He's in Austin.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
I just moved to the
Oh,
Houston
okay,
area.
okay.
I'm from Detroit, and I
Oh,
was living
okay.
in Charlotte, and now I'm in Houston.
Oh, okay. Were you doing the
Yeah.
were you Vigilante Williamson there, or you
I started in
it's kind
Charlotte
of a
actually.
Houston thing?
I
Oh,
started in
okay, okay.
Charlotte, and it just was an idea I came up with, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna just wear a mask and do dumb shit. I guess I don't know if I do dumb shit, but I just talk shit on YouTube. So yeah,
Oh,
I
okay,
came with
okay.
that idea then, and then
Yeah,
met him.
we both started during the pandemic. Like, I mean, I know
Yeah,
for me there just wasn't much else going on, and I was listening to a lot of YouTubers, and I just kind of wanted to get into it. So I started talking about just a few TV shows that I liked, and then I started covering this show called The Expanse, which is just like I love it. It's like my favorite show ever, and that started to take off a little bit. I had one video about it go kind of viral, and then from there just got to meet other YouTubers. And me and Vidge, we were doing a stream. We did a few different streams, and then we did one on Con Air and just kind of thought there was a lot of chemistry there. There was like a good connection. So we started doing this show, like a year and a half ago.
yeah, pretty much. I think it was last February
Yeah.
when we started.
And this is
Yeah.
69th episode. So
Yeah.
it's been going for a little while. We took a little hiatus, but we're back. And we talk a lot about like the cultural issues of the day, talk a lot about movies, TV, the future of the politics therein, and a lot about sort of what we were talking about the other night, me and you, Gabe, was kind of the representation in politics, in comics and movies and video games and all that type of stuff. And, one thing that me and Vidge have tried to make sure that we don't do is we really do not want to become like an echo chamber where we only hear from our own side or people that we agree with or pre-established sources that are like they have the right ideas and that's it. It's sacrosanct, So when we were talking the other night, I thought you made a pretty compelling argument, and I kind of just wanted to, if we could like go through that again, some of the stuff that you were talking about, like specifically about the representation in comics. And a lot of it has to do, I think, is kind of split a lot of people in the fandom regarding the race swapping, like taking like a traditionally white character, like say Spider-Man or Superman, and then race swapping it or gender swapping it or doing things for the sake of representation. I was just curious what your take is on that.
Okay, yeah, like oh man, just jump right into it. Yeah, I guess my take was particularly that night. I'm trying to remember. I wasn't drinking. I just had that one whiskey. But yeah, my take was basically yeah, it's something that's needed. It's just me personally, just growing up as like a black kid, you don't really see yourself in those things, and if you do, it's pretty much like bit part. So like you're not the main hero. And I always never saw this like race swapping per se. It's like somebody, as long as it's somebody else taking up a mantle, it's cool. But if you're trying to make a black, completely black something else, then that's different. That's a bit much. We want our own people, but we want to see ourselves in position. So it's kind of like the argument of when you talk about like black president and all that stuff. It's kind of the same thing. It's all about the representation, but it's not just when it's more than just a swap, than a straight up swap. It has to be story behind it and all that stuff too. But you want to see yourself as a prominent thing, because I know we were talking about this the other night. It's like what's a prominent black superhero that someone outside of like the comic book world would know, besides Black Panther.
I'd say Blade is a pretty good example.
Yeah, I know we said that last night. I mean not last night, but Saturday night. So Blade and Black Panther. Meteor Man?
Static Shock, but that's more. Static Shock is definitely a little bit more in the comic book world.
TV show.
Yeah, I mean, the TV show was kind of a thing, but it was something that like it wasn't huge, but it was like one of those. Because I remember seeing it, like you maybe catch it after school on a channel you might get, like Kids WB. Everybody didn't have Kids WB, so
sure,
it's one of those things. Like you want to see something. He's a popular black one, but as far as like us just having like just that representation in a more mainstream sense is kind of what it's about.
What would you support? Like, let's say a new character that was, black or whatever, but that kind of satisfied that for you. Like, would that be something that you would embrace and find interesting, or is it more?
Yeah.
To me, what happens? Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. A new character would be fine too. Just something that's put out there and pushed. So that's representation also. A new character, maybe a black character taking on a more famous mantle, something like that. It's all about the representation. It doesn't necessarily have to be, quote unquote, a black, I don't know, Flash, but it can be it can be a new character altogether.
What do you think about that, Vig?
Okay. To be honest, I don't think nothing is too unreasonable on the surface. My issues have been what has actually like that sounds great in theory. That's not kind of what's happened with a lot of comics. Like there's certain characters I actually like I like Miles Morales, right? And I actually like the character, even if I don't necessarily want but then at the same time, I even told my brother this, he feels like a what's the word I use? I used it a focus group character, and then they start. Let's toss Miles Morales in as Wolverine and make Miles Morales Iron Man. It's like, hey, let's actually focus on Miles Morales. I guess when they did Spider-Verse, but let's actually push it. Let's care about this character. And so what my issue has been is instead of we're getting a black superhero, we're getting like a market share plug, and they're not really going to push them. They're just going to put them out there. And in recent years, they might not just make them black. They may, and I have in saying this, and I've said this a million times on the channel, no issue with the LGBTQ community. I just don't need every black character to be effeminatized, or if it's a female character, masculinized. So there's all these tropes that come along with it. We're not just getting hey, we're about to make Marvel, I'll just go with Miles Morales again. We're about to make a Miles Morales based storyline, and it's going to be about him and exploring his character and pushing him, and then we're going to do a cartoon for it and a movie. That's not what's actually happening. What we get is, hey, we gotta have a gay character, a black character, a female character, and so you get a black one, and then we'll just. It still ends up being a side character of no note. At the end of the day, even if they take a mantle, they end up the end result is a side character that was just there for somebody to feel better about themselves that week and had nothing into what you were saying. Like, hey, I want to see myself. Like, I liked Static Shock too when I was younger. I went to Anime Matsuri, took a picture with a dude dressed like Static Shock. Like, that's cool. But I just feel like that's not the result of what we've actually gotten especially the past few years in comics and in a lot of the characters.
What do you think, Gabe?
I agree with some of that, yeah. But the thing is that, I guess pretty much most of it. I want to add to it a little bit. I get what you're saying in terms of, yeah, they bring up these black characters, and then it's almost like they're saying, here's a black character, he's black, that's it. And then don't get much around him outside of just him being the black whatever. Or either we get a little bit of that and then it's quick and then it goes away. Like, it's like, we saw him, good to go. Like, Miles Morales is a good example, like the Into the Spider-Verse. That was in mainstream, right? Like, people that weren't in the comics got to see that. But then, is there a sequel? Is there something else? So I agree with you at that standpoint. But and it goes back to kind of what I was saying now and then, when we met, is there's still that lack of representation, and like it's right. There's still a lack. Like you didn't do enough. So I see what you're saying. If I'm hearing you right, is it Vigilante? Do we call you by your first name?
Vigilante, yeah. It doesn't matter. Some people say Vid, VW, whatever.
Vig.
Yeah.
V-dubs, all right. So I kind of like. So I feel what you were saying. In terms of that, because there's like a little bit of representation, then it stops. A little bit, and then it stops. And I don't know if I said this when we met, but Black Panther felt like that too. We got it. It was all the niggas in one. All the niggas in one movie. Boom, you happy? Then we gonna come out of that. And then we're gonna give you like a random nigga in the Scarlet Witch show. And then we're gonna give you like a random, and then drop like little nuggets. Like, she might be the main person at some point, but then where's she at? Like it's like there's still no representation. And so I see what you're saying. You still don't feel it. But what I'm saying is you need. I guess the best way to say it is that, like, yes, bring them in more. Have these characters be a man. We need him to be the main Spider-Man in this example. Just be the main one for a little bit. Why? Be the main one, and that's what I mean by representation. You don't see that. We got the black kid doing it for a little bit, and then you just show your little cousins that movie all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I think what happens when it comes to the thing with like representation is that there's a lot of pieces to that pie, right? It sounds like yours is you're focused mostly on like black male representation being a mainstream superhero that we can kind of latch onto for a while. But the thing that I have seen and observed is that's one group, you or a group of people's kind of point of view. What ends up happening when that game starts getting played is like, well, we also need a lot of gay representation, and we need female representation, and we need feminist representation. And what ends up happening is you get this kind of hodgepodge of sort of activist characters that really aren't very interesting to many people outside of people who just need activism in absolutely everything that they consume. And ultimately, while I think what you're saying has some virtue, because that was the thing that I was just impressed with, just interested in when we were talking the other night, was I was like, all right, yeah, like the way you said, like I didn't see a black superhero until I was a certain age, and how much that affected me. And I was like, I guess I didn't really think of it like that. Like, that's pretty interesting. But I think what ends up happening ultimately, though, is that it's like everyone feels there's a rush to have that representation sort of fill everything. And I think you see that in modern entertainment. Comic books is a great example. They take lots of characters and make them gay or bisexual. Movies, you see, I feel like it's an over-representation of like, aggressive women who kind of run everything and tell people what's going on. They kind of like vaguely feminist undertones and sort of weird racial narratives and properties where it doesn't quite belong. So while I kind of like I understand like in a ideal world, like that virtue kind of makes sense, I think in practice it really just sort of waters down almost everything.
Yeah, but I think that's more of a behind the scenes thing. It's more of like if you need to have if it's not first off, we already know a lot of the stuff is disingenuous. It's based on capitalism. It's based on like people trying to make a dollar. Based on let's cater to these people because they loud right now. I get that. But then it's coming from a disingenuous place, and then you have these characters that just don't really represent the people. It's too much all at once. So yeah, like
Yeah.
kind of like what I was just saying. You have a black character, but if all he is black, then it's like, yeah, this is cool and all, but we do more than just, we do more than just swag out every day. Like,
Yeah.
we got other things going on too.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like the gay people, just like with trans people, like that. Yeah, that's a big part of their lives. I don't know that the struggle that they have, but that's a big part of their lives. But they also have other things going on too. They also got to wake up and go to work every day. So where's that element?
And there's another
It's
issue. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Oh no, you good. You good. Go ahead. No, I was done.
No. Another issue is that if you do go behind the scenes and you go in depth, you start to realize a lot of the like outside of whatever you feel about representation, there's the fact that quality in general of entertainment has just kind of fallen off because they hire a lot, especially you talk about comic books, you're talking about mainstream comic books, they hire the cheapest people they can possibly hire. That's kind of an open secret. So they're not putting forth quality, and in a lot of cases they're using this Batwoman, the show Batwoman being the best example of, hey, we don't have a quality product. We don't have everything situated. In fact, even the first season, somebody almost died, got paralyzed. We don't have our shit together, but what we're going to do is use a black female character so we can get a couple extra seasons going. And that, because that's the wave, we'll get a couple extra seasons out of it without having to actually be good. Batwoman is that show is a perfect example of showrunners and producers who didn't really give a shit about putting out a black character or a lesbian character, none of that. They just cared about getting Warner Brothers money for a few years and was basically used it as
money though. Because it wasn't a successful show.
No.
To me, it's more just brownie points. It's more just public brownie points, being like, we get to like, look at us. We're very woke. We're very progressive. It's, I don't really see it being genuine in any way, even from a profit standpoint. Most of these things don't make that much money. I mean, if you look at the modern comic book industry, it's in tatters. I mean, it's absolutely falling apart. I mean, they don't move these units like they used to. It's kind of a destroyed industry, to be completely honest. And, in my estimation, it's got a lot to do with the identity politics is primary, way above story, way above making a good product. It just kind of ultimately is about, did we check the boxes? Yes. Okay, good enough.
Yeah, but see, that's the dilemma with being a black person in, whoa. Oh, my bad, y'all. But that's
got real black.
Yeah, on cue too. But that's the dilemma with being a black person into these things, because it's like the debate between tokenism and representation. And sometimes you're like, how much of the token thing do I need to take before it starts cutting into real representation? So just kind of piggyback on what you were saying, it's like, yeah, it is a bit of a virtue signaling kind of thing, but then we don't know how much of that to take before we go, okay, now where's the real representation?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to sit and sometimes look at bullshit. That's just being this like, oh, here niggas, enjoy this for a little bit. And then we're like, okay, we see ourselves on the screen, but then what happens after this? It's like you lay the foundation, but then you can branch off and actually make a real story, and then you don't. Like, there's only a few black characters. I thought it's like when you mentioned Batgirls, the CW show, right? Mm-hmm. They made Joe West black in the Flash, and it wasn't his blackness wasn't like at the forefront. It was just this nigga's a detective. Actually, he was the same nigga from Law and Order, if you're being for real.
Yeah.
But but still though, it was like that was like representation in a way done better than up at that point than we had seen. Because what, they came out like what, 2014 or something. So it was a better way, a better representation. I'm not gonna say Iris because that character was trash, but Joe is like, this is a black, he's a detective, he's actually helping out, he's doing something, and he's not we're represented, and he doesn't have to tell you he's representing. He just does it. I guess that's what I mean by a character like that. You represent us by being there. You don't have to remind us because we see it. You just don't have to sell us out. That's it. So,
I liked Joe West the first couple seasons, and you were almost the Flash, Matt, as you've.
I did audition for the Flash, the CW show, the standalone, the spinoff from Green Arrow.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
I didn't get it.
Yeah. Oh, but like actually.
Yeah, like the Flash.
Like actually, the Flash. Okay.
Yeah, it was just one of those auditions. It was a pretty big call. There was actually, I think his name's Matthew Lawrence. He was the older brother from what's that show with Topanga?
He was on Boy Meets World. He was the
he was the older brother.
He was the older brother's roommate.
Yeah, and he was there. He was at the audition. It was wild.
You didn't get it. You didn't get it.
No.
Did you see him and realize, no, I'm not getting this?
He ain't gonna get it. You definitely get it.
That was like the first.
Like Matthew Lawrence.
The second indication was when I absolutely bombed the audition because I was so fucking nervous. I think that was what really keyed me in that I wasn't gonna get this role.
Yeah. You saw Matthew Lawrence and lost it. Yeah.
Yep.
He shook me, man.
He shook me.
Knocked you off your game.
That sucks, man.
Well, okay. So what you were saying, you thought that the representation of Flash was pretty positive. What would you say to the people that were like, "That's not Barry"? What's his name? Barry.
Well, Barry Allen. So you don't even know the Flash. That's why you didn't get the damn role. No, I'm just joking.
No,
he was talking about Joe West, which is Iris West's father, and Barry Allen. It was still Barry Allen was. They kept him white, but I'm not Joe Allen. I got mixing up characters. Joe West was black. They race swapped him. And they race swapped Iris.
Oh, okay. Who's Joe? I don't even know Joe West, so I guess it's not that significant of a character.
He was significant in the show. He's actually pretty good in the show. The first couple seasons.
He's basically Barry's father figure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was
good.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, this is kind of why I thought it was an interesting conversation because it's. I don't know how much of it I necessarily agree with, like your take, but I like your argument because I think it's pretty reasonable. It doesn't come across like too screechy, like like a lot of those girls who just like, no, you have to see it my way. That's the only way to see it. Like I was like, oh, all right, this is like the first time I've ever heard the argument made where I was like, oh, that was pretty reasonable. I kind of see that. But the next thing that like we ended up talking about was Eric July, Young Rippa, because I brought up his Isom, like his independent comic book that he created that is got a black guy as the lead. And you didn't have all that many nice things to say about Eric July. And I was kind of curious to hear what you had to say about that.
Yeah, well, we are on the other ends of on opposite ends of the political spectrum, man. I kind of view him as just like a conservative black dude. A little bit of my heart wants to call him an Uncle Tom, but I'm pretty sure he's heard that before, and I'm pretty sure that message was all over the net. So it's not an original thought. I just feel like it's a weird take. But what we were talking about is so like when I got exposed to him a couple of years ago. I don't know if you guys remember those those talks about making Michael B. Jordan Superman or something like that, right? And that's when YouTube started recommending me some of his videos. Around the time he was making those videos, doing commentary on that, and that's when I saw him, and I'm like, yeah, I don't agree at all with this nigga. Like, because he was really making an argument of, if correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember, he was saying things like, why do this? Why do this? Make him why race swap him? We're not finished with the white Superman yet. Not enough story has been done with that. That kind of rhetoric.
So,
and to me, I don't. Oh, go ahead.
No, I thought his argument, because I can't remember the video specifically. I thought his argument was that it was a hand-me-down fit, like the idea of making a black superhero. Because this is more my line with my thoughts as well. It's like a hand-me-down. It's like there's an established character, and instead of coming up with an original one, you just say, "Hey, we'll just make him black," and then just like we started off earlier. All right, we're done. We made him black, so we're just going to walk away from it. And so it's more of the hand-me-down fit, but I can't remember the video specifically, so I would have to pull it up and try to look for it real quick to see the exact argument he said. But go ahead. I didn't. That's the only thing I wanted to interject, because that was my interpretation of his argument.
Oh yeah,
Go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. It's just from what I remember, it really took on a tone of like just a really, really like on the horse of do not make this character black. I mean, what you just said is valid. These things can feel like a hand-me-down. Here, take this, y'all. You got your black Superman, and then they sit back and wait for us to be quiet. But to me, that's not what I got from his videos. That's not what I got from his message. It was Superman should stay white. If you're gonna create a black superhero, create an original one. I do agree with that, but I also agree with like there's nothing wrong if the story is done right and you don't just make a black Clark Kent, right? And after I watched a couple of his videos, and then I'm like, well, not all the way through because the bitches be like 20 minutes long, and it's like I can only take this for so long. But what I got from his videos, I didn't look up the story itself, was that they weren't going to make a black Clark Kent. They were just going to use a nigga Kryptonian and make him a Superman. So I'm like, if that's the case, then that's kind of an interesting story. What are the black people doing on Krypton? Yeah. So what happened to them? Y'all see the white ones.
I think that's an optimistic interpretation. Now, it may very well have played out like that, but in my experience with the way that this generally goes, you may change the name, but it's Superman, it's Clark Kent, and then they just kind of use that as like the cop out, the little like side squeeze example. But I still think, I would even argue that even the mantle, like, is it really that bad to preserve it as it was? I don't think even necessarily creating a new character is the only solution. I mean, I've heard Eric mention several comic book characters that are black people that they've never ever investigated. They've never spent any time, showing or developing, and that seems as reasonable to me as anything. It doesn't even need to be whole cloth brand new. Just how about some of these characters that already exist? How about a little bit more play for them?
But yeah, you could do both. These things aren't exclusive. You could do both. But I mean, what's the argument? Did they have the same argument when Supergirl came around? Where women just make a new female hero? Why do we got to be a derivative of Superman? Was that an argument for women at the time? I don't know. That's kind of a genuine question. And also, we already have these personality swaps of Superman that do well when he's not like the good guy when he's evil and all that. That's a personality swap, and that's Clark Kent being evil. We're just asking for a black Kryptonian, not a black Clark Kent. So to me, that's how I always saw it. I mean, I can deal with an evil Superman, and why can't we also deal with a black person taking on the mantle too?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a vacuum, I think that could work. But what ends up happening, I think, a lot of the times is that, it almost feels like a coordinated effort to remove or redefine the prior heroes, right? Superman isn't truth, justice, and the American way anymore. That's gone. That's no longer part of Superman's canon. Luke Skywalker is this dejected Jedi who doesn't really want to take part in the order anymore. Captain America is he works for Hydra now. Like, it's so many times where it just seems like over and over and over, it seems to be a complete annihilation of like any historical American hero, like fictional ones, that I tend to bristle at it. I tend to think, well, it's played out like this so many times. Why would this time be any different?
I guess to me, to that point, that's the real pandering. Like, when they make a traditional American hero evil all of a sudden, that's such a on the nose critique of America kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So, which is fine. It's art. It's valid. I'm saying that it's cool. That's also pandering, and it seems like you don't like it, but I don't. Yeah, and it's like, we get those stories, and we get those, and some of them are interesting, some of them not so much, but it'd just be nice to have our thing to at least critique. Take the chance, make this Negro Superman, so we can see, like, okay, they did, or then we can go, oh nah, this ain't it, don't do this again. But we don't even get the chance to even review it. So you know what I mean? Like, you get evil Captain America, evil Superman, get to go, yeah, y'all did this horribly, but we want that. We should at least get that chance. That's representation too. Mm-hmm. I mean, you get good shit from bad shit. Like, it's probably gonna start out bad first, and then, like, look at Sonic the Hedgehog. That nigga was ugly until everybody complained, and they remade him. So you have to have that representation so that Black people can see it and go, nah, this ain't it. And then we can shape it. Just how, like, these writers are shaping Superman to be how they view America. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's making sense. But
no, you make sense. And actually, additionally to the Superman thing, I think Superman is a character that because they kept doing these evil Superman storylines, they've been doing it for like years. Injustice is now 10 years old the game, and so now they kind of destroy Superman as a character. But I guess my question is, I'm not in the business of trying to convince billion-dollar companies what to do. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. I'm either buy or not. So when a guy, I know you mentioned previously not liking a lot of Eric July's takes politically, but when he does say, you know what, I'm going to create the fucking character. Fuck letting DC or Marvel and letting them fumble. I'm going to just do it. I'm just going to create the character from ground up. And the first book, at least so far, has been really successful. What's the negative in that? What's the bad thing? Or is it just, man, I don't like the shit that Eric July says, so I don't care about this character?
Oh, I don't have nothing bad to say about the character, nothing bad to say about the comic book. I don't know anything about it. I tried to find reviews on it, and I couldn't find any reviews on the book itself.
It hasn't been.
It always talked about
it. It's not out yet. So I'm trying to at least find the premise. At least find the premise of what is his character. And what I could get was that it's like a character who stopped fighting crime and something happens and then he got back into the life. That's pretty much the synopsis that I found. Mm-hmm. Really dumb, really shortened version of it. But yeah, as far as the character, I don't disagree with him making his own comic book so that, I mean, if it's coming from a place of representation, like actually creating a new Black character from the ground up, God, I'm sorry.
I don't want us to have this conversation, man. They're messing with the lights.
Nah, like yeah. But the thing is I don't disagree with him making a comic book with a Black character and all that. I just disagree with it was just the Superman stuff. And after that, I hid his videos so that I wouldn't see him. That was my take on it. I was like, I don't like this stuff. I don't agree. I'm all for hearing something from the opposite side. But but you got this nigga had at least three videos on this topic. This specific, and the Superman thing was like a point he kept harping on. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm pretty sure in one video he did say the thing about we're not done with the white Superman yet. And that really rubbed me the wrong way. So I was like, I'd rather just hide it rather than have something bitch about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not in the
Yeah.
business of just arguing points
I
that I would
understand that.
never agree with. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the comic book, I'm like, yeah, do you, man, do the comic book, write the shit, I hope it blows up for the right reasons and not because it's anti cancel culture or whatever, those
Mhm.
types of terms, So yeah,
What
I
would
don't
be
disagree with that.
what would be the right reasons? And the reason I ask is because part of what the whole Rippaverse is about, as I understand it, is standing on ethics that are pretty. They're laid out very specifically. And I don't know if anti-cancel culture necessarily is one of them, but I feel like the belief that different points of view can exist and people can say different things and you don't have to like
That
it,
should
but
be
they
a
shouldn't be
better
removed
host.
from society is woven into that point of view. And do you think that there's something wrong with that?
Uh, what trying to? You mean? What are you trying to say?
Well,
Like people being
you
silenced?
said the anti-cancel culture thing like that's a bad thing, and I was just wondering if you do you think if that was one of the reasons why he was making this, would that be a bad thing?
Uh, man, I don't know because I would have to see the content of the book,
Okay.
I mean, because it's not necessarily why, it's what the book about, what's happening in the story. To me, that's what it should be about because that's the point, right? The point is that we don't have proper representation. So whatever the origin of the book is, if the book is helps springboard black representation, you can't really be that you can disagree with his views, but you can say at least he helped put us in that uh zeitgeist. I guess that'll be a word for it.
Yeah.
He helped put us in that forefront. So you, you can disagree with the man, but if you can come together and he can do that, that's fine too. Those views
Mhm.
are harsh. Those views are
Yeah.
harsh as hell. But uh, I don't know because I haven't read the book, and the book
Yeah,
isn't
Yeah.
fair
out yet,
enough.
so it's
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
really
It
hard to
comes out
tell.
soon. People have pre-ordered, but I think it ships in the next couple weeks or
Week or
something
so.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Real quick, you guys mentioned the ethics, and I cannot read through the mask, but if you want, I can share the screen because he actually has it on the site. And I don't think if I remember correctly, and again, barely reading through, he has it like it's not necessarily an anti-woke, anti-SJW, but it's just a commitment to actually let me just show you. It's respect the customer, care about continuity, just more of a commitment to the story and to the characters, to the fans than it is no liberals allowed or some shit like that. It's not really that. It's respect the customer, and I'm only skimming through because I can't read the
Yeah.
little text of the mask. Canon and continuity, and a comprehensive timeline. So that's really it. It has nothing to do really with his politics. It's more of just I just want a character that respects the customers, and there's like I said, canon in the timeline. So those are the official ethics. I'm not sure if there's more in the text. You guys can read it. I'll probably link it in the description box. Those watching it, but that's really the core because he's kind of said he's not trying to make an anti SJW per se. He's just trying to make a good comic book, that's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I think you meant by the right reasons. Like, okay, as long as this is, as I move stuff around on my screen, as long as this is just because it's a good book and it's a good character, then dope. So yeah, I mean, hey, you seem everything you've said has been incredibly reasonable, and I don't think anyone can, I don't know what the hell our chat, because our chat, they troll us, so who knows the hell they're gonna say. But I feel like you've been completely reasonable with what you want and what you're asking for, what you think. So I appreciate that. And I'm
yeah,
similar. I'm not trying to argue points just for the sake of it. You know what I mean?
yeah, and me neither. That's what it's not about arguing. Like I said, it's just about being represented in these works of
Mhm.
art. Being a young black boy and like you see this stuff, and think about like you growing up young, you don't have cable or anything like that. So I don't know
Mhm.
how old you are, V Dubs, but
Yeah.
there's sometimes we just had like certain places certain places you spend the whole day. There's only like 4 channels. And as a child, you only have like Fox Kids. Like, if it's during the week, it was just Fox Kids in the afternoon. There was no, and maybe Kids WB if you were fancy, but Fox Kids, you definitely had that. That's not much. That wasn't much representation for us. I mean, we had when Blade pop up on Spider-Man, the animated series.
Yeah, he wasn't on that many episodes, like 2.
Right. And there might have been a Black Doctor or some shit like that at one point. I can't remember. I doubt it. And then X-Men, we had Storm and Bishop, who was just a nigga with a gun. So I was just like, there was not that much representation growing up. And so Storm was dope. But, you wish she played more. You wish she had more to do. She should have been more of a, she was in the forefront. She was one of the main casts, and I give it that, right? But she's also sharing it with the likes of like Wolverine and Jean Grey and Cyclops, and and as a kid, I couldn't really articulate her powers. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, she can control the weather, and then that's it. Yeah. That's it. But what does that mean? Like you know what I'm saying? Like, she can make it rain. Can she shoot? Yeah. But everybody else, you can articulate their powers. It's like, okay, Wolverine can heal quick, and he got claws in his hands. All that you can articulate Gambit before you Storm, and this nigga just kinetic energy. The fuck? That's the shit moving, But it's easier to articulate it than hers. But the point is, like, that's also part of representations. But with this dude's comic book, you do have to start somewhere. So when you enter into a lane, ain't nobody in it. If the conservative Black dude get in it first, that's cool. But at some point, it's gonna be balanced, But I hate to say it's better than nothing, because that's kind of like to the point of what we were saying in the beginning, where you're just like getting something like a Black Superman and you're supposed to be happy. I don't really want to say it's better than nothing, but it's something. Yeah. It's something, and it's something to throw in the pot. Like, you have your Miles Morales and stuff from this side, and then you got this Black dude from the other side that's doing his thing too. Whether or not I agree with it, what his views, he is, from what I can see in the articles and everything, in some way pushing the envelope forward. If that makes sense. In some way pushing it forward.
Yeah. I mean, look, personally, I'm all about it, because I just think content has gotten so political. I don't really see, like, I don't see it stopping. It seems like it's representative, but really more representative of an ideology. I think I think he's right when he says the tokenization of certain characters, because I think it's more like I feel like a lot of times these characters get thrown to the wolves. Like the Reva in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, like we were talking about that, like you knew she was going to draw the ire of the audience. You knew it, because she's up front. She's there kind of like taking over the show. It's the Obi-Wan show, but she's going to be the lead. You know that. And then it's almost like then this actress gets abused, but it's like, well, yeah, I mean, you're using her, you know what I mean? And she kind of becomes like this sacrificial lamb for what I view as agenda. And I think like that's what ultimately ends up happening, is like the representation that you seem to value and think is virtuous and important, I think ultimately just becomes sort of a bit of a straw man in really what's more a larger agenda that's more political and anti-West than I think has got really anything to do with genuine representation.
I have a question for you, Foulball. Sure. And this is a question that on different podcasts. Not sure if I actually asked you directly this, but what would be, like, let's say the writing was better for everything. I mean, we had a lot of heat from that Arcane thing, right? If the writing was better, like, a lot of these problems would be solved, because when they did, I mean, think about how many race swaps existed pre-2016 that nobody said anything about. Nobody cared about the Kingpin and Deb.
Actually, funny that you say that, because I have a clip, and I was
gonna
Daredevil.
Yeah,
Daredevil. That's what I was trying to say. I was about to say Deadpool. I'm like, no, that's not Deadpool. talking about a
I
brain.
was. I
train
had
brain.
this. I had this clip pulled because I kind of was. I was gonna frame something and with some of the things that you were saying the other night, Gabe, where you were saying about how you didn't like that Eric July was focused on keeping these characters white, and you didn't like that he went on Fox News. And then I was getting ready for this stream,
Yeah.
and something just hit me, and I was like, oh shit, that's a great counter to that, or at least just a great point of discussion. So I've got a clip here. I'm sure you're familiar with the comedian Patrice O'Neal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a clip from a show that he was on talking about this exact same thing.
When they put Michael Clark Duncan in as on Elektra, when they put him in as the Kingpin, if you're a fan of comic books, Kingpin's a big white guy. And when they put Michael Clark Duncan in as a chance, a crazy casting, I'm going, what the fuck? Why would you? Don't make white people black for me, motherfucker. He's white.
Yeah.
Just do the right thing. So when you
Wasn't expecting that from Patrice of all people, and I did not know that clip was coming when I asked you that shit and talked about Daredevil. That just came because I was like, it's an old one. Huh.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was one of those things where it's like, I think for a while people were like, all right, they kind of like tolerated it, but when it becomes so ubiquitous, people are like, all right, what are you doing? You're destroying everything. But no, Patrice did have that issue with that. So actually, there were people that pushed back on it at the time.
I didn't know that actually. It's ironic as hell.
Yeah, but you were finished. You were asking me a question like the.
Oh yeah, my question was like the reason I even brought up the different race swaps is even though Daredevil was not great written, that was not a good. It was just an example of something that I thought nobody gave a shit about because it was back in the day. There's been other different race swaps, or where they just make a character black and there's not as much. There hadn't been as much pushback, at least going back, earlier stuff, and I can't think of anything offhand because of stream brain. But my whole real question is, if let's say there was less agenda in it, and it just was it was the kind of the argument. Oh, it just so happened this is the best person for the job, and you just had good characters, good shows, less agenda. Would that, would this even have been an issue either way?
Absolutely not. I want all my characters white, really white.
Jesus Christ.
No. I don't care. I want good story. I never gave a shit. I never cared about a lot of that. I guess Eminem exists, but I never needed to see myself in hip hop to enjoy it. I loved hip hop. I still do. And I don't need myself in there to enjoy it. So if it's a movie that's good and it's not about me, I'm fine. As long as it's a good story, it's entertaining content, you're not going to hear many problems from me. The thing is, I think the representation is a shield for agenda. That's why it's so difficult to swallow most of the time, for me.
Yeah. So
I don't know, Gabe, you have any thoughts?
I don't know, man. As far as saying, I don't know, the Daredevil clip, it's like, I mean, the Patrice O'Neal clip talking about, well, he said Elektra, but yeah, same thing. It's all, those two movies were connected, but yeah, I have to disagree with him. First off, I remember that movie, and I remember seeing Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin, and I mean, it fit.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a big ass dude. I mean, it fit. It didn't feel like, what I mean? It didn't feel like a race swap in the sense we're gonna make him black so everybody can see it, because Michael Clark Duncan was also a star, so it's like, yeah, they didn't put in a random, yeah. Oh yeah, but that's another one. But they didn't put it, who was also a star. So it's like,
yeah,
at that point, it's like, yeah, you make the person black, but it's not like you just grab the random nigga nobody ever heard of and then made him Kingpin. You grab somebody we all know that that brought a rat to life and made him Kingpin, and now we're like, cool. I can see this because we know him as the big dude. So all that goes together. As far as Samuel Jackson, I prefer a loud yelling Nick Fury over a more stern one. It's just funnier. You know, so those are like good forms of it, actually. And
I
Daredevil was
think when
a
it
bad
comes
movie. So
totally.
I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it was good because the movie was good. I'm saying it's good in the sense of like, oh, it fits. It fits. It's not a. It's not a thing. That one just happened to fit. And also with Nick Fury, it just happens to fit. Uh, they may have seemed darker. It just happens to fit. You know what I'm saying? So like it was light skin at first, and they actually went further into black. So I mean, that's a stretch, but still, like we still try. You know, I mean, that's how I feel about that. I don't disagree with that at all. That's what was on my mind. I'm like,
Sure. Yeah. No, totally.
after
I
hearing
think
that,
when it comes to Kingpin, especially like the physicality, like he is Kingpin-ish in size and stature. Like he's a Kingpin looking
He's
motherfucker.
massive, and there's not a lot of
he's
humans that fucking big in general.
No. So it's like even in the Into the Spider-Verse, like Kingpin was so exaggerated and ridiculous looking. You know, the tiny little head, these huge shoulders. Yeah, and when the great example you just brought up, Vidge, is Nick Fury. I mean, I didn't necessarily hear anyone having an issue with that representation or race swapping or anything like that, because I think ultimately what was preserved was the integrity of the Avengers and the integrity of the story. Now, obviously, as it goes down the line and they kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't call cucking him, but they definitely made him a lot less badass in Captain Marvel when it's like, oh, you know why he's got that eye patch?
That damn cat
him.
Fucking Luke is right next to you, so I'm like, a fucking cat.
Cool.
They made that pissed me off. That pissed me off. That's where I've said, man, you know what? If y'all gonna fuck with us, don't represent us. If y'all gonna just leave us alone. Just go to the other things. Because it's like, okay, you had built up, how did he lose his eye in this, in this universe? How did he lose his eye? Oh yeah, it was I forgot what he said. Was it the Avengers when he said something, or Iron Man 2? We made it seem like it was some crazy raw shit that happened. That's why he lost his eye. Nah, it's just a cat. It's like, fuck.
I always thought it was like in a war or something. Like I just, and I think that's like when people really, when it starts to mount up, because like, Patrice, I think Patrice was sharp on the motivations of Hollywood, right? I think they were sharp. He was sharp on like why they were doing things. Like now with the the Kingpin thing, it's not necessarily that, because you're right, he does fit the physicality, but a lot of other times it is just for the sake of getting brownie points in that community, which I lived in for 10 years, and it's, very much into that. So I think maybe that was a bad example, but I think he saw the writing on the wall, and I think he understood that it's like, this is really not about representing the characters well. This is more about representing like your politics better. Like that's way more important to them. I that would be my interpretation, because that guy always had vision, and I always respected what he said. But it's I mean, Vidge, I think Nick Fury is probably the best example of, people don't care as long as it's good. Like, if you want to do stuff like that and it's important to people, okay, I mean, as long as you maintain the integrity of the story, I think you're going to get most fans are not really going to give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, don't make him gay. Like, don't undermine his masculinity. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different kind of man. It's like, all right, but then now you're breaking a lot of like the character's actual like existence in the world. I was like, now what are you doing? And I think it opens up this Pandora's box where it like you can't put it back in. You can't undo it now, and it just seems to me, in my opinion, it's just running rampant. We're at the point where it's just like, I don't even know what's canon, what's interesting, what's good. Like it's all so diluted that I don't know. It just makes me uninterested in almost all of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I feel with a lot of entertainment in general. But like I said, there's other things. There's a lack of quality writing. If the writing was better, that would solve it. The lack of originality. They don't ever release new properties at all. Fuck a new black character. They won't do a new show with white people. They just won't do a new character at all. I remember something that just came to my head, and then I want to get Gabe's thoughts because I don't want to leave him out of the conversation. I feel bad. But they're doing a Scooby-Doo reboot where Mindy Kaling, I think it's an animated reboot if I remember correctly, but Mindy Kaling is supposed to be Velma. It's supposed to be it is anime because I saw the screenshots of it. It looks fucking horrible. Mindy Kaling is Velma. Velma is now Indian. There is no Scooby-Doo, and it's supposed to be adult oriented. And it's like, well,
I mean, there's no Scooby Doo.
Scooby Doo's not in the show, even though it's a Scooby
Like
Doo.
no dog.
No dog, no. So
What?
it's like, just make your own show. Why did you grab this property with what all your pre-existing ideas and then change every element about it? Like, what was the gain? Like, what was the point? And so that's another thing. They don't just, if they just made a good character, I probably should look for my Green Lantern, because that's one of the few characters I remember growing up. The
Green
Justice
Lantern.
League, they had the Black Green Lantern, and he was a full-fledged character. He was the only one who got bitches on the show, if I remember correctly. So he was a full-fledged character. He had motivations, he had story, he was treated important, he was treated well. But like, that's not what they end up doing. They end up jacking up the whole show, and then they make a bad show, and then people yell at the actor or the creators, and they're like, oh, you guys are racist because you don't like our show. And it's like, listen, if you would have made a good show, we would have liked it. If you would have put the effort in and not change all these core elements of what we came to see, why we like this character, why we like, if you're going to do a Scooby-Doo show without Scooby-Doo or a Batman show without Batman, yeah, you are going to get people who are pissed off.
He-Man
And so your
show without
representation is
He-Man.
not going to really matter. Oh yeah, a He-Man show without He-Man. Yeah, you are going to make people upset with your representation type replacement. So,
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Gabe?
The Scooby Doo thing is weird. So it's just centered on Velma.
Supposedly, I should probably pull that up and be a good host. Be professional.
Yeah,
That's the first I heard of it. I don't know.
that's just weird in itself. Even if it wasn't an Indian Velma or anything like that, it's still weird. It's still a weird premise.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, like, I mean, the weirdness of it overshadows the race aspect. I don't even think that's really representation, because honestly, dude, I associate her with white people. So
Really? Mindy
Who,
I'm
Mindy?
like, yeah, like she chose her side. Yeah, so like, I associate her with white people, you know. So I don't. When I hear that, I'm like, yeah, she would be doing Scooby Doo. You know, that don't.
Well, I
You
think
know.
a relevant argument to that is how you're saying the Kingpin that matches the physicality. I don't think Mindy Kaling matches the physicality of Velma, dude. Velma was hot.
No, Velma's not the hot one.
Oh no, you see these cosplayers.
Oh, there's some hot Velma.
Oh no, you see these
hot
cosplayers. These thick women cosplaying as
Yeah.
Velma. I think she can be thick now. You know, it's been changed.
She's on the other side of thick, though.
It's a body swap.
Yeah.
She's too thick for you.
Yeah, I saw her in real life at a bartending event.
Oh, really?
She was actually quite pleasant. She was really sweet and kind of, you could tell she was funny. Like, she had like a funny personality. But nah, I didn't really see the
man.
smash ability in Mindy Kaling.
Yeah, I had a.
Oh, you like stick figures.
She was my celeb crush for
No,
the
no.
longest. Oh, fuck her
Really?
brains out.
Mindy Kaling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never had a
It was
thing
just.
for her.
I mean, yeah. There's other
Nah.
celebrities I smash, obviously, but
Y'all can have
Yeah,
fun.
she's
It's
attractive.
not for me.
Yeah.
It's fine, I guess. I never was moved by. I thought she was funny. Like, I liked her on The Office. I thought she was, like, funny. But no, I don't know. Guess it's just difference of taste, gentlemen. But
maybe.
Gabe, we lose you. I wanted to ask you, because we are approaching an hour. You do have a show, right? You do have like
Yeah,
a
we should
podcast
promote
that
your
you do.
stuff.
Yeah, I have a podcast called the Light Skin Perspective, and
Light Skin Perspective.
yeah, and a weekly podcast comes out. We go over like various topics. It's kind of a more Black centric podcast, so we talk about topics that affect us. But it's humorous. It's not. We're not in there with kente cloth on, but we are in there discussing. Just pretty much things that happen in the news and Black culture and things like that, but not too alienating. So anybody can listen to what we're talking about. Is like prominent things. And then we just have segments. We have a little trivia segment between us three, because there's three of us on the show. And oh, come on, government. I'm just promoting the podcast now.
Kate,
But
not
yeah,
supposed to promote the stuff.
but yeah, we gotta have segments. We have like a trivia portion that's happening now with us
Oh,
on
really?
the show, and Yeah, so we answer like Black history questions, and right now I'm losing. So
Maybe we should have had one of them
but
come on the show. We got the loser. I don't want
Yeah.
third place.
yeah.
Winner.
Yeah, so we alternate. At one point, I'm in the lead. At one point, the other guy's in the lead, and one guy moderates it. So
Okay.
yeah, but all in all, man, it's a fun podcast. We put out episodes every week. If you we put out clips, video clips for those that want to not want to sit and listen for an hour, or listen to three niggas they don't know for an hour. You can watch three niggas you don't know for like a minute. So
There you
you
go.
can find us on
Taste it,
Instagram.
sample on Instagram.
Yeah.
All right, we'll put it in the description below so that that everyone can check it out, and I'll take a look too for sure. That's cool. Who are the other two guys?
Oh, it's two local comics, Winston Dean and Tyler Gross, and we do
Okay,
this
cool.
podcast together and episodes every week.
How long?
Check us
how long
out.
y'all been doing it? How long has it been going for?
Oh, it's relatively recent. I think we are, I want to say 4 or 5 episodes in, but
Okay,
the
cool.
podcast, yeah. So it's been doing well. We've been getting a lot of views and likes on our clips. So yeah, tune in.
Tight.
Cool.
Yeah, y'all check it out.
Your podcast is probably more successful. We should be trying to promote on yours instead. But hey, please check it out. And you know what? Thank you for doing the light skin perspective as a fellow light skinned brother, man. I'm sick of light skin being a negative term. Like, that's some light skin. Like, man, shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
You got light skin feelings.
Yeah, like we can't be emotional. You have a little bit. You have a little bit of emotion. Obviously, they blame it on your complexion. It's like, come on, man. I ain't trying to have a heart attack at 39 because I kept all that shit in. So, like, I shed a tear every once in a while.
There you go.
My friend used to my friend back in LA. He used to make fun of like the light skinned black dudes with like the real pretty eyes, you know? How they always thought they were like supermodels, like, hey, they just are convinced of their own beauty.
Laughing at you,
So
man.
that was pretty funny because it's like there is something like remarkable about, like, you do get lost like in like a Steph Curry's eyes. You just like, it's like so jarring, and like they know that.
This is why you don't like Velma.
That's why.
Yeah, it's eyes somewhere else.
I'm just an idle observer, you know. I'm just observing the
Like,
world around me.
Like, excuse me, Velma, could you tap Fred for me?
Yeah, get some contacts or something. This is not doing it for me. Yeah, shit. Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on. I thought that was very cool of you.
Yeah, man.
You know, like I said, like, you know, I'm so used to having this conversation. It's just kind of one-sided, or it's like talking to kind of the most extreme version of, you know, whomever is making the argument. And when we were talking the other night, I was like, God, that's damn reasonable. Like, I can disagree, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that argument. I was like, that's pretty fucking solid. So I'm glad that you agreed to come on, because I thought this would be a really good conversation. And I thought it was.
Yeah, it has been. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Me too. And it's always nice to talk to people that disagree. Try to see their side, even if you don't completely agree. You can kind of come have a meeting of the minds and maybe learn something. You know.
Sure. 100%.
So it's nice to have to see that outlook. Yeah.
100%. So Gabe, I really appreciate it. Y'all check out Light Skin Perspective. Yeah, you know us, Culture Crime Fighters, every Monday. When is this one coming out? Are we putting this one out on Monday? Or
I was going to ask you afterwards when this was going to drop. Like, we can.
I guess we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
we'll let you know when it's out, Gabe.
Yeah, because we usually do our show Monday, so.
We already had our episode.
Okay, good for me.
So it might be next week.
Might be next week. Might be Wednesday. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Dope.
But Vig, anything else?
No, that's it. So yeah, if you like the video, please like the video. Please follow my man Gabe. Also, if you haven't subbed to Foulball Productions, I don't know how you found this channel, but please sub to Foulball. Even if you do none of these things, thank you for your time. Good night or good evening or good morning, whatever time you're watching this, and God bless. I'll see you guys later. Peace.